Okay, friends, we're going to be kind of expanding on our lesson from yesterday. So if you felt comfortable with yesterday's lesson, it's the exact same thing. But now we're going to look at what happens when you divide and how does your place value chart change when you're moving to the right and you're decreasing by 10. So it's the same thing. Yesterday we looked at multiplying by 10, 10 times more. And today we're looking at 10 times less. And we're kind of comparing the values of a digit. So we're going to put here in our table of contents, we're going to put compare values. And I'm on page 36. Okay, so your notes today are like two combined. So I want you to, instead of gluing it like this because it won't fit, I just want you to turn it and glue it like this and then turn your notebook to face that way. Okay, before we get started, I want you to turn your attention to this side. This is like our vocab, our notes. This is going to be our examples. I just thought it'd be easier to glue them in today. So I want you to circle this division equation. And I want you to see how it's really similar to a multiplication problem. So my multiplication is, let's go back to page 11. You can just watch or you can go back to your notes as well. So I want us to look up here. When you have digits that are being multiplied, we call them factors, right? We have a factor times a factor gives us a product. 2 and 7 are factors of 14. Now, when those digits are put into a division problem, those digits are called something else. So that's what we're going to look at today. So, if you look at our notes, today we have a division equation. We have a dividend, which is the number. That's the whole number that you are going to be dividing into. So that is what we call our dividend. Say it with me, dividend. Then we have our divisor. Say divisor. Divisor is the number that you are dividing into. So you're going to break down 8 into 4 parts. Okay? So the divisor is the number you're dividing into your dividend. So we have dividend divided by our divisor gives us our quotient. Our quotient is our answer, okay? So we know that 8 divided by 4 is 2, okay? So the dividend is 8. That's our whole number. So if we're going to start playing with base 10 blocks tomorrow and the next day after that, a couple days. So if you had 8, let's say you had 8 blocks, okay? And you broke them into 4 little groups, okay? You would have groups of 2. So you'd have 2 and 2 and 2 and 2 and 2. Okay? So that's how that looks. That's what we're going to be looking at today. We're going to get into our base 10 blocks tomorrow, but I just kind of wanted to show you the different vocabulary that comes with the division problem. Okay? So let's write our objective up here. So we're going to write, today I will compare values. So this is going to be a good entry point for tomorrow's lesson. So we're pretty much breaking up lesson 4 into kind of multiple parts. Okay? So let's take a look. This is exactly what we did yesterday, but now we're dividing. You can see that this is no longer a times, a multiplication. It's now a division. That's what we call a division sign. So a division sign looks like this. So you can see our place value chart looks a little funky, right? Because yesterday we started in the ones place and we times 10, times 10, times 10. Now we're dividing and we're decreasing. When you divide, you're losing something, okay? So you're decreasing your value. Your place value is shifting. You're losing cupcakes. You're losing, I don't know, video game time. Whatever is your thing, when you divide, you're losing some of that. Right? You go from 8 to 2, you lost some stuff, okay? So let's look at how a division problem would look. It looks exactly the same, but now we're just dividing. So let's look. It says, starting with 26,000, divide by 10 until you can no longer divide by 10. Fill out the table. Okay, so let's take a look. We have 26,000 divided by 10 equals what? When you divide, so when we multiply, yesterday, we added up all our zeros, right? We're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5. When you're dividing, you're losing something. So what you do is you take your 10 and you cross out. So I have 1, 0. I have 1, 0 that I have to cross out here. Okay? That then becomes your value. So you take 1, 0 here and 1, 0 here. So you're pretty much subtracting. Instead of adding like we did yesterday, we're subtracting, okay? So now I no longer have 26,000 because I had to take away a 0 because I divided by 10 and I moved down place values. So now I have only 2 zeros. Did I do that correctly? Yeah, right? I shifted down a 0, I lost a 0. Okay? So my 26,000 now became 2,600. So I divided by 10. So now we got to take this number. So we have 2,600 divided by 10. What do? Cross out my zeros. Now I have 1, 0, 6, and a 2, 260. Did I do that right? Yep, you can see the flow. I have 1 less 0. Okay. Now I have my next problem. 260 divided by 10 is equal to, well, cross out my zeros. Now I only have 26. Okay, so you can see I'm decreasing way in size. Each time you divide by 10, you're decreasing in size. And I have to stop there because there's no other, if you divide by 10, you're going to go into your decimals. So we just want to stick with our whole numbers today. Okay, so it says, examine the relationship between the quotient, divisor, and dividend. So let's look. My quotient is my answer. These are my answer. What is happening? What's happening to our quotient? Well, if you look, so we have our quotient is losing a 0. What else is losing a 0? Our dividend, right? So we lose a 0 off our dividend to get our quotient. Okay. So if you need steps for this, you might need steps, you might not, but we can write them just in case. So how we tackle this problem is step 1. Okay. So we divide our number by 10. Okay, so we divide by 10, cross out 0, we can say matches of 0, right? So we have one match here. That's like a match. We cross them out. They equal out each other. Okay? And then 3. Write new quotient. And you just keep going until you can't go anymore. So you go until they tell you to stop. Okay? So it's the same thing as yesterday. We're just moving down. We're losing value. Okay? So 2. How is the 3 in the tens place different than the 3 in the hundreds place? Okay. What I want you to do here, this is pretty simple also, but sometimes it's nice just to have steps just to, in case you forget. So step 1, what do we need to do? We need to underline the 2 digits. So how is the 3 in the tens place different than the 3 in the hundreds place? So I have my hundreds place 3, and I have my tens place 3. Step 2. Oop. Write the value of those digits. So this 3 is not just a 3, right? It's 300. This is not just a 3, it's a what? 30, right? In the tens place. Okay? Step 3 is compare. So we got to think, how are 300 and 30 related? How could we get from 300 to 30? So I could say, if I'm trying to explain myself and compare it, I could say the 3 in the tens place is 10 times less, right? It's less in value than the 3 in the hundreds place. Okay, so you can see 300 is 10 times greater than 30, or 30 is 10 times less than 300. However you say it, both would be correct. Okay, so here we're just dividing by 10, and each time we take away a 0, we match up our zeros and we take one away. Okay, and then here we just underline our digits, figure out their place value, and then come up with a sentence that tells us how they're related in whichever way you want to do that. Okay, so let's flip it over and go over some problems for tonight.